Now, my counter arguments for those arguments against my arguments for red flag laws is that, at least in the case of Florida and like this law that is now in place that was signed over this weekend, the incentive is for states to create red flag laws, and they need to meet due process requirements. And in the state of Florida, they do. So if due process is not violated, then that takes away that argument against a red flag law, correct? Because due process requires three things. It requires that a person must be given notice, there must be the opportunity to be heard, which would be the hearing, and then there must be a decision by a neutral decision maker, which is the judge. And the right to privacy. So a correctly written red flag law, and I'm including this in all of my arguments in support of a red flag law, a correctly written red flag law requires probable cause in order to be issued. Man, that was a tongue twister. But again, it goes back to the argument against, which was the search and seizure, the right to privacy. Well, that said, you need a warrant, and the warrant has to include all the specifics and the details of what exactly you are there to search and seize. So in Florida, that checks that box too, right? And then your right to keep and bear arms, the Second Amendment. There are laws today that limit your ability to have a gun. Right? Recently, there was this Supreme Court decision that says the state of New York has basically, lack of a better term, but ridiculous expectations, ridiculous requirements in order for someone to have a concealed carry. But if you are guilty of certain crimes in this country, then you cannot go out and possess a firearm after you have finished your sentence, finished your jail time. After being incarcerated, it has come to an end. There are laws on the books there. I don't see people being up in arms about that when it comes to the Second Amendment. And I believe also that with rights comes responsibilities. Just because you are given a right by our Constitution doesn't mean you can, to me, I don't believe you can just be frivolous with it. You can just, not take any responsibility, not be held accountable. So, we all have the right to keep and bear arms, and that right shall not be infringed. But if you are acting in certain ways, saying certain things, I read that list. It was about 13, 14, 15 items in the Florida statute. If you are doing things that would cause someone to believe that you are a threat, an actual threat, and these people who bring the petition to a law enforcement agency, at least in the state of Florida, they are under oath. They have to sign an affidavit that what they're saying is true. And if they don't, then in the state of Florida, that is considered a third-degree felony if you make these false statements. But with rights come responsibilities. Even the First Amendment has limits on what you can say. You can speak out free speech against the government, and the government can't come down upon you. But if you're working at a private company, you don't have the same free speech. So there needs to be responsibility. Just because you have a right doesn't mean you should not be held to a certain standard, in my opinion. And then what actions, again, are you taking? Are you exhibiting? What kind of behavior are you exhibiting that would lead someone to say, hey, I'm going to take the time to go down and tell on you to a law enforcement agency to get a risk protection order or a gun violence protection order issued against you, get that process started. And your unalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. My question is, when or why should your right to life and your right to life to be protected by a firearm, why should that outweigh my right to life or someone else's right to life without requiring the protection of a firearm? Especially if your behavior is suspect in leading people to believe that, hey, I might be at risk. And again, the risk protection orders, these red flag laws, don't just apply to potential to do harm to other people. They also do apply to their potential to do harm to yourself. But why should someone else's right to keep and bear arms and their right to life, protect their right to life through using a firearm, why should that trump my right to life without a firearm? Like, if you're saying that you have like a stronger right to life with the protection of a firearm, then you're saying that everyone should then go out and buy a firearm in order to combat someone who could potentially commit an act of violence against them. And then therefore you're telling me that I need to go buy a firearm even if I don't want to buy a firearm as a free and independent individual within this country. So I should not, someone else should not have to go out and buy a firearm just be so they can feel safe from you or someone else who presents a particular danger to them with a firearm. Again, why would your right to life with the firearm, especially with questionable behavior, outweigh my right to life without the protection of a firearm?